You are now watching The Meech.
Welcome to Mario Kart Origins Refueled. This series will cover the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC, fan games, as well as any other Mario Kart content. And in this episode, we'll be taking a look at quite an elaborate fan game known as Custom Track Grand Prix 7. And in retrospect, we'll also be revisiting Mario Kart 7. I've gone on record to say the Nintendo 3DS was the blandest era for the Mario series. Super Mario 3D Land is great, but not very creative. New Super Mario Bros. 2 unfortunately doesn't have that luxury, and it just feels soulless. It's not a very good game. It's too easy, and it has a meaningless coin gimmick. Don't even get me started on games like Mario & Luigi Paper Jam, Super Mario Maker for Nintendo 3DS, and if you really want to ruin my day, throw in Paper Mario Sticker Star. Actually, that's not a game. It's a digital torture device. But there were some exceptions. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, Mario & Luigi Dream Team, Mario Golf World Tour, and strangely enough, Puzzles & Dragons Super Mario Bros. Edition all fit the Mario standard of quality. They're creative, excellently designed, and have stellar presentations. This also applies to the Mario & Luigi remakes, though I didn't highlight them considering they're remakes, but there is one game that got very close to fitting the standard of quality, yet didn't exactly reach the finish line. That would be none other than Mario Party The Top 100. Now, in all seriousness, that game was a lost cause. I would go on a rant about it, but Joshy supplied us with the goods.
So they're making a new Mario Party game that brings together the 100 best minigames. First of all, thanks for asking the community, Nintendo. That's probably a pretty good way to determine what the 100 best minigames are, but never mind, you know better than us. So then, it's coming to the 3DS. Wow, a great platform for a party game.
All jokes aside, it's Mario Kart 7. Revisiting Mario Kart 7 in 2023 was an interesting experience. The gameplay is rock solid, the selection of tracks is S tier, and the presentation is gorgeous even to this day, and it brought a lot of new to the series, such as gliding and underwater sections. So why didn't it live up to its full potential? It wasn't just because of the lack of Waluigi. That certainly didn't help matters by any means, because a game without Waluigi just isn't the same. I still remember my heart sinking to the ground and smashing into pieces when it was revealed he'd only be an assist trophy in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And if I'm being completely fair, I'm actually a fan of Mario Kart 7's Bizarro roster. I love the Wiggler, and I even liked Honey Queen as well. And picks like Lakitu and Shy Guy, well, I'm glad they stayed. But Metal Mario, you reek! Get out of here! The problem with Mario Kart 7, what is it? It's a complete and utter downgrade from Mario Kart DS. Considering how excellent the track selection is, I'd want to be able to play that at any time or in any order. But unfortunately, Mario Kart 7 doesn't have a versus mode. This means if I wanted to play Waluigi Pinball or Wario Shipyard, I'd have to do an entire cup just to play it. It might not seem like a major issue, but it's almost a deal breaker for me. And considering handheld systems cater towards a mostly single-player experience, you would think that there would be a sort of mission mode like in Mario Kart DS, but what you're left with is nothing. You just have the Grand Prix and the shallow battle mode. That's not to say Mario Kart 7 is bad, far from it, but it's the lost potential that's disappointing. Having a versus mode, some missions, and a better roster would have gone a long way, but I decided to just move on to Mario Kart 8, and then 8 Deluxe, leaving Mario Kart 7 mostly a relic of the past. However, it appears Lakitu has given Mario Kart 7 another chance, because once again, fans do what Nintendo don't. Custom Track Grand Prix 7, better known as CTGP7, is a successor to the widely popular CTGP-R for Mario Kart Wii. What this mod does is essentially adds on to Mario Kart 7, bringing dozens of new tracks, characters, and so much more. The moment I finished modding my 3DS, I was super eager to check it out. I mainly play on my modded Sea Green Nintendo 2DS, and it plays perfectly. I've tried it on a new 3DS as well, and while there are said to be some improvements, they're negligible if they're there. So it essentially will be the same experience on every 3DS model. So the question is CTGP7 the Mario Kart 7 that should have been, or is it nothing more than a hack? Oh wait, it is a hack. The good kind though. As I stated before, Mario Kart 7's roster is one of the more notable aspects of the game, a lot of bizarre choices, and a notable lack of more popular characters. I would usually address the entire roster itself, but let's answer the important question first. Is Waluigi playable? Yes, yes, and yes! Waluigi is finally in Mario Kart 7 after a shameful absence, and not only is Waluigi here, but he also brought along his Gold Mantis cart from Mario Kart DS. The model used looks pretty good too, although some of the other custom characters look even better. The way the roster works here is that unfortunately, new characters will replace existing ones. Let's say you want Waluigi, he'll have to replace Honey Queen. It might not be ideal, but you can switch between characters by going into settings. You will need to close and start the game again for the new roster to take effect, but that's a small price to pay for Waluigi's greatness. Now I know you might be asking, Demich, which characters can I play as? Many Mario Kart veterans make their return in CTGP7. Characters like Dry Bones, Dry Bowser, Baby Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Daisy all make their triumphant return. Or just the Dry Guys. I'm about as big of a fan of the babies as I am the metal characters, but there are some really cool characters that instantly give this Mario Kart an edge. Birdo is here, and better yet, she actually replaces Peach. The fact that I can delete Peach from the roster alone puts a huge grin on my face, and having Birdo replace her is even better. Also coming back from Mario Kart Double Dash, Petey Piranha makes a return. Out of all the custom characters, Petey Piranha hands down looks the best. The model is so good here, and it looks official. The oddball Rob returns from Mario Kart DS, even with his Famicom colors, and even Toadette is here. I'm sure EB is thrilled. A lot of Mario Kart veterans come back here, with thankfully no Pink Gold Peach in sight. And finally, we have Funky Kong. He's a sort of unofficial Mario Kart mascot, most notable for his godlike status in Mario Kart Wii. Even if he isn't top tier here, he'll always be in my book, simply because he's Funky Kong. We also have some new characters and alts as well. Sonic is oddly here, but here's my rule. We don't allow strangers on the track. You're pretendo. Except you, Pac-Man. You've already proven you're destined for Mario Kart, and you can stay. But we also have Midbus from Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, and even a Chain Chomp. Leave it to the fans to acknowledge the Mario RPGs in Mario Kart, and Chain Chomp is just hilarious. But we also have some dope alt costumes, such as Ice Mario and Luigi, Super Mario 64 Mario, Mr. L, and...
Whoa, it's Barney!
I don't know what Purple Yoshi did, but he's seemingly banned from being playable. Not here, though. You're still only gonna have 17 characters on the fly, but you can customize the roster to your liking, and all the ones here are excellent. Knowing how these mods are supported, it's fair to expect even more, but I'm quite content even now. There are also some new kart parts as well. I mentioned the Gold Mantis, but there's also the Egg 1, the Bandicoot Team kart from CTR, and even the standard kart from Mario Kart Arcade Grand Prix. Waluigi? Mario Kart Arcade Grand Prix? They're really trying to capture my heart, aren't they? All these additions alone are excellent, but the gameplay is going to be the test, because believe it or not, it's not just Mario Kart 7. The gameplay of CTGP7 is at its core Mario Kart. Your goal is to reach the finish line, get first place, all while strategically using and avoiding items. One of the strongest aspects of Mario Kart 7 is the control. Everything feels great from steering to drifting, and even the gliding in underwater sections. I'd go as far to say it feels slightly better than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. But CTGP7 makes some enhancements to the already great control and feel of 7. Braking is improved, meaning that if you encounter a sharp corner, you can still drift at a slower speed rather than just making a hard stop. This is especially useful considering you can adjust the speed of the CC. You can go crazy and go for 1000cc or 1cc, but I found 200cc to be perfect. 250cc if I'm feeling really confident with my driving. This will replace the CC you've selected, but again, modifications do have limitations. The control is perfect, but there are even more additions. 2 items returned from Mario Kart Wii, being the Mega Mushroom and the fake item box. The Mega Mushroom is a blast to use, and it functions identically, but the fake item box retains its uselessness, but becomes a bit more useful. I know I sound like Smarty Boy saying, "It's not useless, it's just less useless." But hear me out. The fake item box still can't protect from shells, but when it's placed, it does look like a real item box until you get really close. You'll have to keep a sharp eye out for oddly placed item boxes and will need to be alert to dodge them, so it actually does serve its goal of being a fake item box rather than an obviously genuinely fake item box. Here's something neat. Whenever a blue shell blooper or lightning strike, you'll get notified via the LED light on your 3DS. You won't be able to completely dodge them, but it does give you a slight heads up, and it also looks really cool. All these additions enhance the game, and are definitely some nice quality of life features. If I were to bring back items, I probably would have gone for the Thundercloud and Cape, but it's still nice having some returning items. But the main draw of CTGP7 isn't simply improving Mario Kart 7, it's the addition of dozens of retro and even brand new tracks. All the tracks from Mario Kart 7 are still present here, but in addition, we have 56 additional tracks, bringing the total to 88. That is a lot of tracks, but here's the thing, as cool as these mods are, oftentimes the quantity overtakes the quality. That's not to say there aren't great tracks. The developers are very talented, and it's awesome to have mods like this, but when I played through CTGPR on the Wii, I encountered quite a few tracks I didn't care for, usually due to confusing layouts or just not being interesting. But considering CTGP7 is a sequel to CTGPR, perhaps some of my gripes could be addressed here. Let's start off with the retro tracks. Many of the tracks from the Mario Kart series are brought over to 7, mostly those from Super Mario Kart to Mario Kart DS. These are usually the highlight for me, considering that the tracks were developed by Nintendo, and they're just being remade for 7, so you know they're gonna be good. And I'm happy to say, all the retro tracks that I've played are fantastic. Unlike current retro tracks we see in Mario Kart, these tracks usually aren't reimagined. They retain the general design from the original tracks, very similar to how retro tracks were handled in Mario Kart DS, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but the tracks will sometimes have some of their own flair to make them feel more modern. My absolute favorite retro track here is Remixed Vanilla Lake. Vanilla Lake is hands down the worst Super Mario Kart track, but this remixed version is so much fun. For one, you get a perception of depth you couldn't on the Super Nintendo, and rather than avoiding falling into the water, the obstacles are geysers, and with proper timing, you can trick off them before they erupt. This track was inspired by the Mario Kart Tour Vanilla Lake, and I absolutely loved it there too. Rainbow Road also returns from Mario Kart 64, but it brings back the fireworks show, which is something I missed for the Mario Kart 8 version, and it also takes place in a city, which is a brand new addition, and we even have Rainbow Road from Mario Kart Super Circuit. When it comes to retro tracks, the Super Circuit tracks are always a highlight, and CTGP7 is no exception. Though I do wish there were more of them, I would love to see Sunset Wilds make a return. But there are also some retro tracks that combine multiple tracks into one. Retro Raceway combines the circuit tracks from Mario Kart 64 into one track, but my favorite by far is Rainbow Road Deluxe, which essentially brings over elements from most of the Rainbow Road tracks, even Wii. But the retro tracks aren't just limited to Mario Kart, because there are even a few tracks from Crash Team Racing, F-Zero, and Diddy Kong Racing. The Crash and Diddy Kong tracks are excellent, they brought over them very well, and to be fair, I expected them to translate well to Mario Kart since the games have a similar core structure, so they feel right at home. F-Zero on the other hand is radically different from Mario Kart. I was intrigued to see how the F-Zero tracks would be handled, and shockingly, they're brought over quite well. It's all about speed, and there are plenty of boosts, though you'll need to brake more than usual, especially with 200cc. The retro tracks are great. My only criticism is that there are too many tracks based on the circuit tracks, and there aren't enough tracks from Wii or newer games. I'm not sure if it's a limitation of CTGP7, but I know for certain CTGPR had a lot of tracks based on newer games with no issue. Not a deal breaker by any means, but it's worth bringing up. Now, these are just the retro tracks, because we have yet to touch on the new tracks. Unlike the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC, which consists of mostly retro tracks, Custom Track Grand Prix 7 has a really good amount of new tracks, some based on Mario games, others based on completely different games, and even a few that had me saying, what the hell am I even playing? But what remained consistent is the quality of the tracks. I always say that Mario Kart doesn't take enough inspiration from the mainline Mario games. How cool would it be to have some tracks based on Super Mario Galaxy or Super Mario 64? Well, my wishes have been granted here. One of the coolest tracks is Dark Matter Fortress. This is a track inspired by Super Mario Galaxy, complete with the hazy purple sky, arrow floors, and the dark matter. It translates really well to Mario Kart, and honestly feels like something Nintendo could have made. But a track that has no business being as good as it is Secret Slide. This brings the Super Mario 64 slide and turns it into a racetrack. Part of what makes good track design are the turns, and surprisingly enough, the Secret Slide has some excellent track design, despite it not even being designed to be a racetrack. I do think having some penguin obstacles would have been clever, but regardless, it is still very cool. There are so many excellent tracks, it's hard to list them all, but some of the standouts for me were present right from the start. Concord Town and Autumn Forest might not have anything too crazy in terms of theming, but these tracks are excellently designed, and they just feel cozy, like you're supposed to feel in the fall. And then there's a track called Dragon Burial Ruins, which has a very dark theme unlike what you'd usually see in Mario Kart. But it's a really cool track with some eerie music to go along with it. But there's a track in the game I thought was nothing more than a joke, that actually turned out to be one of my favorite tracks in the game. Doge Desert. You know Doge. The track design is shockingly solid, but it's accompanied by, I kid you not, Darude Sandstorm. When I heard it, I nearly burst out laughing, but it's actually a great track that I just expected to be a meme. The overall track selection is great, but considering this is a community-based mod, some tracks just aren't designed well. But the amount of awesome new tracks and retro tracks completely outweighs any of the bad or mediocre ones. It actually was more enjoyable than CTGPR, considering the level of quality was higher and more consistent. Some of the tracks are also in CTGPR, but overall, I was pleasantly surprised and really loved what the mod had to offer. The presentation of CTGP7 is very similar to that of Mario Kart 7. Sometimes, mods can have an inconsistent art direction, considering they're often community projects, but if I'm being honest, almost all the tracks look at home in Mario Kart 7. Mario Kart 7 was really the first mainline Mario Kart to have a standout presentation visually, and CTGP7 looks just as good for the most part. Some tracks do look better than others, but the visual presentation, like the tracks, remained consistently good. Character models, for the most part, also look good, though some look better than others. Chain Chomp and PD Piranha look perfect, but some of the characters look slightly off, though that's to be expected. As for music, there's a ton of new music. Most of the tracks are accompanied by music specifically for the track, some being from Mario games directly, while others are brand new compositions, and they sound great. Darude Sandstorm was a standout, but it's oddly fitting for Mario Kart, and the sound effects are great as well. A lot of new ones are added specifically for the new items and characters. Sound design is more important than you'd initially think, and it really can impact an experience. That's one of the reasons why I feel Yoshi's Crafted World has a bad rep. Great game, but a bad soundtrack. But everything here in CTGP7 is great. In terms of content, CTGP7 is loaded. The new tracks are the main attraction, but CTGP7 managed to address my main gripe with Mario Kart 7, and also introduced a mode I was not expecting. I will never forgive Mario Kart 7 for lacking a versus mode, but thankfully, CTGP7 does have a versus mode, meaning that if you want to play tracks in any order with some other additions, you can do that. You can toggle the CPU difficulty, and even use custom items. Let's say you just want to get rid of the blooper, you can now do that. Just like in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it can also lead to some crazy item combinations, but it's great to have the option. The UI for the versus mode isn't as clean as it is in most Mario Kart games. It is slightly clunky, but it's not that big of a deal, because it still addresses my main problem with Mario Kart 7, but in addition, we also have a mission mode. Just like in Mario Kart DS, there are missions you can complete, such as going through gates, and even clearing a reverse track. They're very similar in structure to the ones found in DS, and I found them to be a good addition, but they're not as fleshed out as I would have liked. Your goal is to get points rather than going for a star ranking, which is fine, but it's not as satisfying. The mission mode in Mario Kart DS was almost like a story mode with bosses and such, but they're pretty much just extra challenges here. A great addition for sure, and the missions are fun, but they could have been more fleshed out. But again, these mods have limitations, and in the grand scheme of things, a versus mode and the dozens of new tracks are more than ample in terms of content. And guess what? You can even unlock gold characters by clearing achievements such as getting star rankings in the cups. These mods often don't have unlockable characters, and while it's going to be a challenge, it's only for gold variations, so they genuinely feel like trophies. Part of the reason why I love Gold Mario and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Needless to say, you'll be satisfied with CTGP7 for a long time, and there's always something to do. So far we've established CTGP7 has an improved customizable roster, refined gameplay, a smorgasbord of excellent tracks, a stellar presentation, and an ample amount of content. So what's the verdict? I play a lot of fan games and mods, and I mostly just see them as their own thing. But with CTGP7, it is a pure extension of Mario Kart 7 in every way, and it essentially antiquated the original Mario Kart 7 for me, because it includes all the content, irons out the flaws, while also bringing in a DK barrel of new content. Even if you were to focus solely on the base tracks, the quality of life improvements in the versus mode are enough to recommend getting CTGP7, but considering how much is here, is it the ultimate Mario Kart? In a lot of ways, yes. The quality is outstanding, and it brings Mario Kart 7 to its full potential. I do think it could include some more Wii tracks, and even some from Tour, and the selection of retro tracks could be improved. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is still my favorite Mario Kart, but CTGP7 is easily in my top 5. If you've modded your 3DS, I couldn't recommend CTGP7 enough. It's free, it's fun, and it's getting the ranking of treasure. So what do you guys think? What is your favorite Mario Kart? Let me know in the comments, and keep calm and dada on.